Good morning and welcome to the Mid-Maine Chamber of Commerce Business Breakfast Series. My name is Kimberly Nadeau-Linloff. I'm the President and CEO of the Mid-Maine Chamber, and it's my pleasure to welcome you here this morning. Before we begin our program, I want to take a moment to thank our 2023 Business Breakfast Series sponsors. They include AT&T, Cross Insurance, Nicholson, Michaud and Netto, CPAs, O'Donnell, Lee, McCowan and Phillips, attorneys at law, New Dimensions Federal Credit Union, and Sheridan Construction. Our print media sponsor is the Morning Sentinel. Our radio sponsor is 107.9 The Mix. And our video sponsor today is Kennebec Savings Bank. To that point, I want to remind you to please turn off your cell phones in consideration of our TV audience and the people around you. This is being live streamed, so be careful what you say. It's also being recorded and will be up on YouTube and on local access television in the greater Waterville area, so it will live forever and ever. They should say that to politicians, really. Like, you are running for office. Everything you say will be up there forever and ever. We hope you were able to check out the spotlighter table this morning while you were getting coffee and juice. That was Connected Credit Union. We thank them for joining us this morning. We have a bunch of new members for the month of April. Many of you may have heard or seen the announcement. Brandy has left us, and we have hired Bridget Campbell, formerly of the Morning Sentinel KJ. She had a 27-year career with the newspaper, and now she's with us doing our marketing and membership. And to that end, she's gotten a lot of new members. She hit the ground running. She started beginning of April, last of March. So they are 2 AM Pizza, Arbor Technologies, Dominion Law LLC, Elm City Nutrition, Fantastic Plastic 3D Printer Shop LLC, Geez Louise, That's a Wrap, Healthy Communities of the Capital Area, Ideology, Iraqi Kebab, Mid-Maine Drywall, and Nash's Gym. So very impressive. So we'd like to invite you to attend some of the other chamber upcoming events. We have a ribbon cutting this Friday, tomorrow, the 12th, at 3 p.m. at Remain Humble Farms. It's located at 746 Augusta Road in Winslow. There's another ribbon cutting that we're holding with Jeff Jolliker and his wife and staff on Thursday, May 25th at 10 a.m. at Surrett Real Estate right at 113 Silver Street, Waterville. It's rebranding, and we're welcoming the new version. The Chamber is going to be hosting the 2023 Business After Hours on Wednesday, May 17th. It's being hosted by Waterville Creates at the Paul J. Shump Arts Center, which is at 93 Main Street in downtown Waterville. So if you haven't been into that new location, the Modern Art Gallery of Colby, Tyconic Art Gallery, the main film center with three different film screening rooms, you're really gonna love it. Rehearsal space, it's the Bixby Cafe, chocolate cafe is in there, so would very much encourage you to come. And then the very next morning, because we're masochistic, we're hosting the B2B showcase at Thomas College this year. So it's moved. It's still from noon to 6, but it's at Thomas, and it's Harold Alphon Athletic Center, which is located at 180 West River Road. So the parking is right there, right next to it, right next to the building. Want to stress that. We have free parking, free admission, and a $1,000 cash drawing sponsored by Maine State Credit Union. We have a few booth spaces left. So if you want to get in, you still can. There are forms in front of Bridget at the registration table, or you can grab any of us and we'll get you signed up. The Taste of Waterville is Wednesday, August 2nd at Head of Falls. Stressing it's at Head of Falls because I've had a lot of questions about that. This is going to be an exciting adult-oriented day of food, music, and entertainment, including an expanded brew sampling, cornhole tournament, and multiple beer gardens. This year's opener for entertainment is Dakota, and the headliner is 12OC. Both are very dynamic bands that you may have heard of. If you haven't, you should Google them. For more details, you can visit tasteofwaterville.com, or Sean, raise your hand, is the chair of the Taste. He's right here, so you can grab him as well. Today's presenters are Paula and Derek Slayton. They're managing partners of Trampoline Advertising, And they're going to focus on audience communications, brand consistency, and measuring and tracking marketing performance through Google Analytics. This is part one of a two-part series. So in September, we're going to offer part two. We're going to ask you to please hold off asking questions, make a note of it. There's paper on the tables until we get the microphone to you, because again, this is being streamed live, recorded, blah, blah, blah. We want to make sure everybody can hear. It's my pleasure now to introduce Michelle Jolalabi. She is the Chief Human Resource Officer and Diversity Officer at Thomas College, and she's this year's Mid-Maine Chamber Board Chair, and she chairs the Breakfast Committee. So I would like to bring Michelle up to introduce today's speakers. Michelle.
Good morning, everyone. It is my pleasure to introduce our speakers today. The first, Paula Slayton, is a managing partner at Trampoline and has been in the business management realm for over 30 years. Splitting time between offices in Maine and New York, her goal is to build client relationships that last while providing successful outcomes. She understands budgets and works to effectively achieve results that meet or exceed client goals. With degrees in both nursing and education, she understands how to effectively communicate with an ability to assess and pivot in real time. When she's not working, you can find her walking the beach or hiking with her 3 dogs and husband, Derek. Derek Slayton co-founded Trampoline in 2003. As Tramp's creative director, he digs for the big idea and cultivates its creation with the team, turning it into a viable, real-life solution. His speaking engagements have included both virtual panels and in-person conferences. As an award-winning creative with over 25 years in the industry, including both a national EPA award and an international design award, he's keenly aware of shifts and cycles of branding, marketing, and advertising. On the field, he's a designer, illustrator, and photographer. Out of bounds, you'll find him, if you can, skiing, biking, fishing, and traveling with Paula. Please join me in welcoming Derek and Paula Slayton.
Do I need to test? Okay, can you hear me? Good morning. Thank you. Do you want me to turn that off?
I think that's fine, right? You need the mic off? Do you need the mic, the big mic off?
Okay. So good morning. Thank you so much, Mid-Maine Chamber of Commerce, for having us here. I'm Paula. This is my husband, Derek. We are co-founders of Trampoline Design, and our home office is in upstate New York, near Saratoga, Lake George, Lake Placid area. And we're in the midst of moving offices over this way. My parents live in Bangor. My daughter lives in Bath. I grew up coming to Maine, so we're really happy to be here. So thank you very much for inviting us to speak. As Kim mentioned, this is part one of a 2-part series. So this is like the premiere, and then in September it'll be the finale. So like your streaming shows on Netflix, we also take a break in the summer. So you'll have to wait for the finale. But she mentioned taking notes for questions. So everybody should have one of these on the table. There is a back page for notes. I know you also have a lot of pads and stuff and great pens. So we'll be around afterwards to answer any questions you have if we run out of time with the Q&A. But otherwise, let's get started. So marketing and communications firm, that's what we do. We've been in business for 20 years. We are women-owned. There are 4 managing partners, 2 different couples, and we're all still married and partners, which is a testament to learning how to work together. We started in 1993. I'm just looking at this poster over here. These are all the brands we've created in the last 20 years. We love working with businesses of any size and helping them evolve into their brand or finding their voice as their brand and working with them to truly understand who they are as a company and how to help them succeed in whatever their goals are. We work a lot with municipalities, ski resorts, outdoor recreation, not-for-profits, higher ed, and healthcare. This has been a challenging few years for marketing. I don't know if is anybody in marketing in this room? Yeah, it's been with the pandemic and then the economy shift, it's been kind of a challenge. So we've really had to adjust the way that we advise our clients in spending money because everybody's, very concerned about making sure that the dollars are getting the most bang for the buck, pardon the pun. So we're here today to just kind of share some of our best tips about how to remain true to your brand, how to use the resources that you have. Not a lot of people have $100,000 to go out and hire an agency to do some branding stuff. A lot of people have their own in-house. So we're here to help you find the spots that maybe you can improve upon, give you some ideas for things maybe that you weren't thinking about, talk a little bit about Google Analytics. Nobody likes to talk about that, but we're going to talk about it. And take questions and go from there. So up on the slide, every interaction in any form is branding. I love the word interaction because interaction can be face-to-face. Interaction can be somebody seeing a poster as they're walking by your storefront. Interaction can be talking with a dad at the softball field. Knowing that you have the chance at every interaction to promote your brand, even if you're not, being that pushy, hey, did I tell you about this? Just being cognizant of all of the interactions that you have every day and throughout your week and your month, just knowing that and understanding that every one of those is an opportunity to be true to who your brand is or to be putting awareness out there of what your brand is. So you're going to see that word kind of pop up a few times throughout this presentation. Just, it doesn't have to be, you're running this ad. Every interaction is an opportunity to talk about your brand. So I don't have to shift out of the way because you have your own mic. So,
Yeah,
but
can
okay.
everybody hear me okay? Can everybody hear me okay? Yeah, good. Okay, so just one more thing on this. I just came from the, in Savannah, Georgia, the National Ski Area Association's annual convention. And the ski industry celebrates, their year, awards and everything like that. Visually, what I saw were men from their 20s to 40s, maybe 50s. They all wore a plaid shirt, joggers, running shoes, and a ball cap. And they all looked the same, except for the brand on their hat. That was different. That was the brand that they were repping or the brand they were a fan of. So it was interesting. Every interaction is a form of branding. In this case, it was, what's their ball cap say? I can tell where they're from. So kind of an interesting sort of a paradox. You think everybody's individual, but everybody looked the same. It was just like, yep. Oh, you're okay. Your hat is different. So we're talking about communicating with your customers, your clients, even your in-house team. If you're part of an in-house staff, and building that brand loyalty, getting people to listen. But three important things. It is really about consistency, which is different from repeat. Consistency is, when we talk about consistency, is how you're coming across. You're coming across consistent every time. You've got the same, if it's your logo, you're using the same palette of colors, you're using the same tone in your message, you're using the same tagline, you're showing up in familiar places. That's consistency. And repeat impressions is just sort of hammering it and repeating it. That, and we'll go through, there's a couple exercises that are kind of fun. We'll be a little interactive with you guys to show how that repeat impression has gone and stuck in all of your minds for the various brands out there. And then market share. I think a key phrase here is, and I'll probably repeat this later, but gaining market share by standing out amongst the crowd is really, really important. And it's occupying a space in their minds that they didn't know existed. And just to give you a little example of that, we all have an iPhone or an iPad or an iPod. We used to have an iPod, now it's not anymore. But those products never existed, but Apple created those. We never knew that that space occupied, or that product occupied a space in our minds. Now, everyone has one. So, and I think that same goes for branding and market share and standing out, is occupying a space in their minds that they didn't know was there. This is an exercise, sort of visual exercise that we'll go through, that you can go through whether you're a startup, whether you're a veteran business and you own the business, or again, whether if you're part of a crew, in-house marketing staff or an in-house staff. This is the kind of things we run people through, and you can run this. You can run this through at any time to kind of gain an idea of what it is you're doing. Assess the kind of marketing that you have and the kind of marketing you want. So starting with, why are we here? It's the very center of the graphic here. What are we doing here? What's the reason for this business? What's the reason for this service? And then peripherally, who is it for? It's finding your audience. We'll talk a little bit more about that. How are we unique? What is your unique selling point? What is your advantage? What is your X factor that not everybody else has? Finding your personality and really being consistent about that. That's using tone of language and messaging. And then what is our values? What does our company mean to us? What do we stand for? And up to what is it we do? So, and I think what we'll do is provide this digitally, this presentation digitally for everybody here after this. So this is a little bit different than the handouts. The handouts you have are all sort of just in conjunction with this. So this is a really good exercise to kind of run through. Keeps everybody honest too. You're not who you say you are. This is sort of, think about your audience looking in. You're in business not necessarily for yourself. You're selling a service for other people. You're selling a product for other people. You're in a business for an audience of some kind. But you're not who you say you are. You're who they say you are. In terms of brand, it's how you're perceived by your audience. They're the ones that are going to react, share things about you, take part in your service, buy your product, and it's really about your audience. Just to give you an example, this is the old brand paradigm. This is the old brand model where traditionally the company creates something. You as a company create a service or product. That brand, your brand that you create, attracts the audience. The customer sustains that, and it goes around like that.
In a more familiar, I don't know, Mad Men, you know, you had a brand, the agency that you worked with or your designer created it, and then it was put out there and the audience didn't ask questions. They were like, okay, if they say it, it must be true. That's definitely not the case anymore.
They say who you are. This is the new brand model. This is really where today we're looking at, where the company interacts. You are interacting with your audience. The customers build your brand. They help share things. They talk about you. They ask you questions. They buy things, but they're building your brand, and then that brand sustains. So a little bit of a different paradigm. Again, it's about your audience. Say what you mean. This is to talk about intimidate. When you go to a restaurant or you go online and you're looking at something and there's this glossy language that just sort of doesn't resonate with you, or it's too fancy. It's don't try to sound important. This is really to say, be yourself. Be who you say you are. Don't try to use this glossy, fancy language if it's not you. People don't like to feel kind of feel dumb. They don't like to feel dumb. Everybody, it's intimidating. So this is just to talk about be yourself and not to sound too fancy when you're trying to do that. And Paula's going to go through this process about brand loyalty.
So speaking about, talking about not sounding too fancy, there is a reason why they call it market speak, right? There's people that can go on and on about something and you walk away from that interaction and you're like, I'm not even sure what he was really talking about. And like Derek said, you don't want to feel stupid or dumb. So my hope in this process is to kind of just really spell it out. So part one, you've opened a business or you've been in business for a long time, your sales aren't where you want them to be, or you're hoping to branch out to maybe a new audience, offer a new service, or you're gonna have another location. Put something in place by figuring out what your goal is. we have so many clients where we will sit down and we'll say, well, what's your goal? Well, we want to make money, okay. But what is your goal? Is that through growth? Is it through gaining a larger audience, taking more market share, a bigger staff, another location? Like, what is the goal? And it doesn't have to be, a huge business plan, but you should know what you're hoping to do. What do I want to do this year? What does Trampoline want to do this year? Well, we want to maintain our staff. We want to get clients that are X amount of dollars and kind of weed out some of the ones that are weighing us down. Have a plan. Once you have the plan, how are you going to do it? Well, you need to figure out who your audience is that you're going to share this plan with. Is it a baby boomer who is going to want to be able to pick up the telephone and call you to talk about it? Is it a millennial who has high expectations, and if those aren't met the first time they're in the door, they're gonna talk about it? Or is it a Gen Xer who is somewhere in the middle and kind of likes the throwback nostalgia, but also likes a gimmick or two? You have to just figure out who that is, because you have to talk to them kind of where they're at. So figure out what you want to do, figure out who you're going to talk to, and then figure out how you're going to say it. How are you going to interact with them? How are you going to stand out from your competitors? How are you going to be the one they choose when they Google sub shop? What is that thing? And I think that goes back to what Derek said about being authentic to yourself, because like a sub shop, everybody makes good subs. You could say, I make the best sub. Well, who says? Well, I make the best sub. So what's that like little thing that you do that nobody else does? Maybe you can make a sub in 42 seconds. And you film that and you put it out on a video, and we're like, we're the fastest sub maker. So we're really good, but we also make it. It's finding that little nugget, and it really can be anything. It doesn't have to be some huge thought out, process. It's just, what is that thing? And I think when we were talking about kind of examples we were going to give, because we don't really know what types of businesses we have, it's great that we have such a big variety, but I was like, everything we talk about, like, how would it apply to a guy who's a plumber? And he's been, in business for 30 years, but his clients are kind of falling off a little bit. So how does a plumber say, I can do it better? Well, I'm a plumber. I can fix your leaks. I can do whatever. Maybe it's, I can be in and out of your house in an hour if it's these three things. And then again, it's like taking a little picture and they pull in at 8:05, and then it's another picture and they pull out at 9:03. Fastest plumber in Waterville. Whatever it is, whatever makes you different, kind of latch on to that and use that. People are going to remember it. Best sub shop in the world. Anybody can say that. Best plumber in the world, anyone can say it. So find that little thing. Tactics. So you've figured out your plan, you know who you want to talk to, you've got a kind of an idea of how you're going to make yourself stand out, how you're going to deliver it. Not a lot of people have money to put a Super Bowl ad. Everybody would like to. Joe's Plumbing, during the Super Bowl. Depending on your audience, that may not be the way to hit them anyway. The beauty of social media, you can advertise on Facebook and LinkedIn for relatively low cost, especially if you're a boomer audience, you want to go to Facebook. If you're, millennial or Gen Zer, you might want to try Instagram or dip your toe into TikTok. But just figuring out, okay, I know the what, I know how, and I know what I want to say. How do I deliver it to that audience? Media. That can be a scary word. Somebody says, what's your media budget? Well, I don't, most people can't come up with that. That's why there are people who specialize in media. I think for us and for this kind of group here is just recognizing what channel you want to use. If you're a plumber and you're a speedy plumber and you're on the main drag and you can get a billboard that says, I'm the speediest plumber in Waterville, and it fits within your budget and 20,000 people are going to see it in a month, that might be a good idea. If you don't have the money to do something like that, it might be equally as effective to sponsor a Little League team. I'm Joe the plumber, and I'm sponsoring this Little League team, and be at the Little League field and talk about how fast your plumbing is, and have interactions with the community, and So figuring out, what you can afford and then gearing it towards that audience that you want to hit.
We actually did a very targeted digital buy specifically for social when I was down in Savannah with my business partner, Sean.
Yesterday.
Yesterday.
He flew in. He got in at midnight.
I got in late. We got there Sunday. We left yesterday, and this targeted buy was to show up on Facebook and Instagram, specifically surrounding the Savannah area at the conference center, so that when everybody was catching up with their social media between sessions or at night, they would go back to their home. They would be fed this ad from Trampoline, and we were able to track real-time results on who clicked, impressions, and hits on the website. So,
And it was $27. So
figure out your media.
Yeah,
There are
figure it
choices.
out.
We
There's
don't
ways
have
to
to
do
have
that.
hundreds of thousands of dollars to spend on this huge media buy to be effective with your audience. You got to find the audience.
And we have that interaction now, so we can, reach out to them in a different way, because now we know that they clicked on and where they went. But we'll get to that when we get to Google Analytics. I know you're all holding your breath for that. Okay, so sales. Did I talk about sales? Talk to media.
Yep.
Okay, sales. I see this dovetail presentation. I had to say to Derek, what does that mean? What it really means is making sure, so Joe the plumber, he knows what he's doing. He's going to do it on social. He's talking to boomers. He's going to sponsor a little league team. He has 4 guys who work for him. Get them Joe the plumber shirts. Have them in on the conversation about what your goal is. I want as many people in Waterville to know that I'm the fastest plumber in Waterville and in a 50-mile radius. They are your best brand ambassadors. They have connections. They have family. They are at events. Trust them with that information so that they understand what they're talking about and what they're doing when they represent your brand. Everything should be funneled towards whatever that goal is at the beginning. So share that with your staff and work towards it together. Follow up. Keep the conversation going. It's easy to put an ad in a paper and then say, well, I think it did good. Somebody said they liked the colors I used. But is that doing what you want it to do, going back to your strategy? What's your goal? Keep the conversation going. If you only can afford to do an ad, or you're only doing 3 things for this particular goal, there are things that you can do to remind people that they saw that thing 3 times. So in Joe the plumber's case, send them a thank you note. Thank you for using my services. And by the way, here's a 10% discount for the next time you come back. And then if you don't hear too much again, you send them something else that says, if you refer a friend, they get 10% and you get 20%. I mean, there are little things that you can do, even just a thank you card. Thanks for your business. That goes a long way. A lot of people don't write, as you can tell. E-version, I'm like a handwriter. This is a 42-page presentation and I have handwritten notes. But anyways, it's funny though, I do want to say one thing about follow-up. We try not to use those words, follow-up, because everybody says follow-up. I'm just calling to follow up. I just want to follow up. I just want to follow up. And it can get exhausting. So use something different, something that you learned about the client. Or, in Jill the plumber's case, this was somebody who lived in a red house. And maybe the subject line in the email is, how's the water working at the red house? Just something that's going to get somebody's attention, because there's so much stuff out there. I don't know about any of you, but my inbox, I can walk away from my computer and come back and I have 50 emails in my inbox. So you have to do something that kind of stands out. And it's the interaction. And how can you get them to remember what you were talking about or who you are? And then finally, measure and Google Analytics. But again, we'll get to that. But you have to look at the results. If you put an ad in a paper and you saw absolutely no change in whatever your goal was, it probably wasn't effective. And that's okay. It happens a lot. Try something else. Try something different. The beauty of Google Analytics, and again, we'll get to the nitty-gritty at the end. Sorry, I'm not supposed to say that word. Is that you can track everything. Most of the time, you can track everything. Billboards, not so much. They'll be able to tell you how many people are going to drive by and have eyes on that. But and I do have a funny story. So if you do a billboard, less is more. And we had a client at for a hospital, and she wanted to put so much information on this billboard. I'm like, they're not going to be able to see it. It's on a highway, 65 miles an hour. And she's like, oh, I don't know. So we got a little tiny billboard like this, and we put it in a certain spot, and we put her in a chair in our office, and I said, here we go, 55 miles an hour, and I pushed her. I'm like, what did you see on your billboard? Nothing, because there's too much on there. Consider where you're putting it, and less is more. Less is always more in marketing. So that's the process. No market speak. Again, you'll have this presentation so you can look through it. When you're talking to your audiences, obviously, I think, we've talked about knowing your audiences, and, every generation now is labeled. I'm not sure when we started doing that. I guess it was the boomers, but, this next one coming out is also already going to be called Generation Alpha. I think it's kind of weird that we're all named, but the good thing is that their habits are very trackable. So if you are trying to talk to somebody who is over the age of 55, you want to stay mindful of the size of the text you're using. I'm 53 and I'm already there. You want to be mindful of colors. You don't want to use slang. You don't want to, probably, I think they're getting emojis, but the BRB and the JK, like, they're not going to understand that. And if this is your audience, don't go that route. If you're talking to the Gen Xers, and you've kind of got this on your paper, just kind of some of their traits, they look at reviews. They want to know that they're going to go to a hotel that is going to have soft sheets and soft towels and no hair in the shower. So they're going to look at the reviews, so pay attention to that stuff. If you're talking to the millennials, this is a tricky group, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I have two of them myself. But they want that authentic experience, but they also want to know that they can get Kraft mac and cheese for their kids at dinner. There's some stuff about them. So, all of those are on this sheet.
Yeah. By the way, does anybody know?
Which generation is that?
Baby boomer, and then everybody know who this is? Yeah.
She's our Gen Xer.
And as we get younger, they get less familiar. Everybody probably knows who this is by the left-hand side. Yeah. Harry Potter, Daniel
Radcliffe.
Yep. And then.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Somebody is a Stranger Things.
Stranger Things.
Yeah.
Millie Bobby Brown is a Gen Z.
All right.
Did we talk about Gen Z's characteristics?
Well, They've
got it.
Yeah, video. That's Gen Z. They wanna see it on YouTube. All right. So the one thing that all of these have in common this day and age is a very short attention span. With the evolution of social media and email, we all have a million things coming at us all the time. Doesn't matter which generation you're in. So our attention spans are very short. So say what you want to say it quickly. Short attention spans and even shorter memories. And that's not just the boomers, everybody. Because there's so much coming at them. That's why you want that repeat impression.
How many people here can remember more than 10 phone numbers by heart like we used to be able to? We're not. And so good for you guys. I can't. I don't even know my son's cell phone number.
Repeat impressions.
So repeat impressions, this is what we talked about earlier on. What does that mean? It means hitting people, I don't know, this is sort of a bad metaphor, hitting people over the head, but you really have to repeat. And the way to do that is you can communicate on multiple channels. We've heard the term channels before. What does that mean? Well, these are your channels, your ways of reaching out through different means of, whether it's digital, outdoor, web, email, advertising.
How do you say email like it's a bad thing?
Well, you just said you get 50
I know,
emails, and when you read
email.
your, we get a lot of emails.
By the way, sign up for our email newsletter
Yeah.
with our QR code.
Yeah, I probably didn't set that up very well, but that does, just a sidebar about email is that becomes an opportunity if you're hearing your audience or your fans or whatever, like email exhaustion, that may be an opportunity to hit them up in the mail, in snail mail, good old-fashioned direct mail, in a way that they don't, we don't see too much now.
Unexpected.
Handwritten letter or postcard. You'd be surprised how well postcard campaigns go, especially if they're somehow personalized. But repeating through several different channels is how you do that. You don't have to do all of these. No one does all of these.
No one can afford it.
do all of these. Even if you had a lot of money, to be able to afford it and manage it is just a nightmare. What you want to be doing is a few of them really, really well. You don't want to be doing 5 of these kind of okay, or I'm not sure what I'm doing over here. Maybe I'll try this. Nothing wrong with trying. That's how you're going to get out there. But it really is your advantage to do a few of them really, really well. Paula mentioned earlier about some affordable ways of reaching out to your audiences. We're mindful of budgets. We live by the budget, and whether that's whatever that amount is, we try and focus in on what we can do within that budget to make it the most effective. We're not about, hopefully, and who you work with is not all about spending that money, but to spend that budget. It's all about how to use it effectively. This was a brand we did for the city of Oneonta, which is in central New York State. And Oneonta is, they had a state-funded grant which got them some placemaking, some projects. A lot of money was infused into the downtown area specifically. Part of this was a marketing campaign and branding and things like that. There was a lot to do with media, and there was a lot going on with signage. Signage, very expensive, took a lot of that budget. So what we could do with branding was reach out to the downtown area merchants, specifically the merchants, because it's where a lot of the audience was kind of drawn to. It's very historic downtown, like Waterville, very similar to Waterville, actually. And these few things were things that were inexpensive, but everybody was able to see them somewhere at some point. This leaned towards the gift shops and retail shops and dining, a lot of dining establishments there. So what did we do? We did coasters. We put the brand on coasters. We put it on napkins. We put it on gift wrap paper. We were actually able to provide these to the area merchants
For free.
as part of the grant. They didn't have to pay for this. So that got the brand out there as almost like a brand launch. So we got buy-in from the merchants, and thus their visitors kind of got something that they didn't before, and they saw the brand. So, and in the bottom right photo was a photo op, a social opportunity where you can stick your head in through the O. It's the O in Oneonta, and this is the stakeholders. One of them is the mayor. This was something that we actually built for them. Her dad,
My dad.
built this. We went and got supplies from Lowe's and did this on a budget, and it was probably the cheapest thing of all these things that we did. This is just a bit of what we did, but there are affordable ways to get seen, be unique, and reach your audience.
One other just quick thing on the Oneonta paper, they had suffered a little bit in the early 2000s and had a lot of empty storefronts. So it's hard to entice new businesses to come downtown when you have empty storefronts. So we papered all the windows with that to make it not look like an empty building, but more of an opportunity for branding. So taking advantage of a space that nobody really considered and could put the brand there. So
another way, Paula mentioned again, less is more. And what that means is really you want to be simple. Try and be visually simple because that delivery is easy. People take in the way our attention spans work, the way we take in things and remember things are really the simpler things. and try putting a whole paragraph for your tagline, nobody's going to remember that. So we put together a little exercise for y'all. And sorry,
Savannah.
just getting from Savannah. Promise I wouldn't come back with a Southern accent. I think I just spent enough time there not to. Top right, top left. And the tagline is, I'm loving it. So you can barely read that, but you all knew what it was. Anybody know what the center top one is? Staples. That was easy. Which is actually even cooler that you remember that, because this is a very old tagline for them. They've had, I think, 2 taglines since then. Yeah, we've got, that was another one, but top right. And can you see the tagline? You probably don't need to. You're in good hands with Allstate. Great. Bottom left. America runs on Dunkin'. Everybody know what the official name change is now to what was Dunkin' Donuts? It's now just Dunkin'. So less is more, simple, powerful. Anybody know the center bottom? It's Ford. Yep, go further. That was a little tricky for me too. We worked on this with our business partners. He grabbed that one. It took me a second, but you knew it. And then I think everybody knows the one at the bottom right. Just do it. So you're taking simple words, loving, easy, good, America, go, do. Those are powerful words that repeat impressions based on that word. Very easy taglines, very simple. So yeah, everybody did good. These are the reveals. So good job. Everybody passed.
So that was the visual one. Now we're going to sing.
Okay, yeah, this is a break.
You guys don't have to sing.
Okay. Well, you can. It's a call and answer.
So, yeah,
This
okay.
is an exercise that, again, it's a little bit like the tagline things, but we're going to say something or sing something.
And you're going
We're
to
going to
finish
point,
it.
and you're going to finish it. You ready? All right. Give me a break. Give me a break.
Break me off a piece of that Kit Kat bar.
Branding,
Very
repeat
good.
impressions, consistent, right?
Nationwide is.
Oh, this is not in there, but liberty, liberty, liberty. Talk about repeat impressions. It's the same damn word.
Right?
Jeez. Insurance companies, come on.
We are farmers.
Is it good?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is this the last one?
Yeah.
Okay, this is the last one. I'm going to give a poster who can name this first. And I want to see, by hand, I guess.
Yeah, you gotta be specific.
Yeah.
No, the poster goes to who can name who wrote it.
Right.
Oh, okay.
So
First you gotta sing it.
Yeah, this next one is like a good neighbor. Okay. So here's the ready? You pick the person that puts their hand
Oh,
up
gosh,
fastest.
that's right.
Does
I can't
anybody know
see.
who wrote that?
Oh, the guy in the back.
You know, yeah.
Yeah, it was Barry Manilow. Our friend Barry.
Yeah.
Where's the poster?
Oh, right here. We have 2 of them. I think it was a
we have more
tie.
than one. There were a few hands that went up, and I kind of.
You'll have to tell me who I'm going
Yep,
to.
so right here with in the black jacket, our filming guy in the back.
Yes.
Thank you for participating.
Yes,
That's
thank
always
you.
helpful.
All right. You're all off the hook now. We're
All right,
good.
yeah. Okay, so
So we don't have to look at Barry.
quick wrap up.
So quick wrap up. We'll go into GA4, get Google Analytics. So number 1, reinforce value. How did you do that? You want to be specific. You want to summarize, be compelling. But reinforcing value is really talking about who you are honestly, not trying to gloss, with fancy words. Being specific. What do you do? Who are you? I don't want to have to guess. Make me realize right away. Summarize. Be simple. And really, this is where an elevator speech comes in handy. Everybody know what an elevator speech is? If you were stuck in the elevator with somebody for 11 seconds, what would you say they asked about your business? That's the elevator speech. Really have that in mind. And then be compelling. There are a lot of ways to be compelling. And I think some people are like, well, how do I be compelled? How am I supposed to do that? Again, it's occupying a space in their minds that they didn't know existed. It's really doing some research, and part of our next slide is do your research and be original. I'll give you a little sneak peek, and we'll peek behind the curtain at Trampoline. When we start a brand project for a company, we do a lot of research, which means we do competitive sets. We look at what other companies are doing the same thing that this company's doing? Where are they doing it? Who's their audience? So we do that research, and if we come up with a mark and a tagline, we're going to run that through what we call the playground game. And the playground game is essentially, how can people make fun of this? What does it rhyme with? It's kind of like, how was I made fun of a playground as a kid? People will do that. They will just latch onto something, and a lot of times we have a crew of anywhere from 3 to 10 people working on this. 3 people will come up with a great tagline, and one person will say, somebody's already done that, or
It
they'll
sounds
say,
like-
that sounds a little weird, like maybe dirty. And I had actually somebody from we were doing a branding for a municipality, and we thought we had a great tagline. It was a great tagline, but of all the people, the stakeholders were there, and there were probably 10 stakeholders that we voted, we researched all this stuff. They picked this one tagline, and there's one person that said, that sounds dirty. Like really like icky dirty. And so once you hear that, it's like, okay, she played the playground. And I told him, like, you're going to come work for us and do the playground game. That's your job. And so once we kind of filter all that stuff, that goes through the playground game. We put it through the U.S. Patent and Trademark Service. They have a lookup. You can look up who's trademarked phrases, logos, things like that, and went through the trademark process. There's been a lot of times where we found that people are using something very similar. Usually it's not an issue until they're in the same area or they're in the same business. The thing with trademarks, not to go into it too much, but is to not create confusion in the marketplace. If 2 businesses are using something similar, especially in the same area, no bueno. So, and the other thing is just look it on Google. What are your what are your competitors doing? Where are they? How are they offering it? And you're going to find that as artists, this is the designer in me, it's all been done. So you got to be really on your game for originality and research. And then eliminating confusion. What is it you do? Define your position. How are you different from your competitors? Paul talked a little bit about it early, but really got to hone in on your key feature. What is it? Do you make subs in 42 seconds? Nobody else can say that. That's a great one. Perfect thing about distinguishing, we work with a lot of ski areas and resorts. Come fall, look what everybody does on Instagram. Boy, does that look familiar, huh? So at the time, we were working with a couple of these, but Attitash, everybody heard of Attitash in New Hampshire? We said, okay, guys, this is what's going on. What are you going to do to be different? They said, okay, well, we have the #1 ski town that a train runs through. We're going to do that.
So you still see the foliage and the fall color, but it stands out.
It's distinguishing. And so, how do you know what's next?
Ooh. Well, you can hire an agency, or you can ask a 15-year-old. Really, it comes down to following the process. And if you follow the process, the last piece is to track your results. And this is where we're going to talk. We're just going to brush on Google Analytics. Google Analytics 4 is coming out. You will no longer be able to use Universal Analytics come July. So if you have a website, you should have Google Analytics 4 on it. Previously, Google Analytics, not very user-friendly, only user-friendly to the digital people who buy ads and knew how to do the tracking. This new one coming out is much more user-friendly. It will allow you to look at your site and see what channel people came in from, what device they came in from. So was it they were on Instagram on their iPad at 7 p.m. And where did they go on your site? They went to your homepage and then they looked up, how fast can you plumb my sink? Like, you'll know, you'll have that information. That is critical because you'll see patterns. And if you start to identify those, your response can be tailored to what people are looking for. We are not a Google Analytics provider. We use it ourselves for sure. We use it to track everything. But I would highly suggest that you that you do that. And we've provided you with some material on the whys. Again, better servicing for everybody, easier to use. You can track your data, you can make charts and graphs. It integrates seamlessly with Google Ads, so if you are doing a Google ad buy, it's all going to show up there. One thing I will say is don't get rid of Universal Analytics, because I don't think they've found a way to bring that data over yet. So if you get rid of it completely, you won't have that anymore. So hang on to it, but upgrade to Google Analytics 4. If you really struggle with Google Analytics, like I do, make the investment to have somebody train you on it. It's not hard to install. You can use YouTube. There's, in your packet, there are some links on how to install it. There are, I'm sure, going to be so many tutorials about what everything means. But I did go ahead and include a company that we work with for ours called Point South, located in York, Maine. And they were even willing to share the cost, so to train you or to put it in. And so we'll share that again on the in the presentation. And so, yeah, that's all I'm going to say about Google Analytics. You need, if you have a website, you need it.
By the way, this last slide, does everybody know what generation we set this up for? See you in session 4. We wouldn't probably say this, but I don't know what generation would say this, but I don't know. We're having this is just to say, all this information, there's a lot of information to kind of gather, and along with Google Analytics 4, what we're hoping is you take some of these takeaways, these nuggets, these tips, have tried them over the summer. We're going to be back in the fall for session 2. So this is all like tips that you can do. Session 2 will be to say, how did you do? How did you
install Google Analytics 4?
Did you do GA4? And if so, what kind of results have you gotten over the summer? So it'll be, this is sort of the...
Don't be afraid to come if you don't. Like, I don't want to just 3 people do it and we only have 3 people. Like, come anyway. But that's it.
Yeah,
I think we did it in time, right? All right.
Questions? And wait for Grace to bring you the mic. Anybody have questions?
No questions? All right. Now I can take my glasses off because I don't have to read.
Paula as well. It's a pretty neat name.
Paula, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I do some volunteer work, and so we're a nonprofit. And you mentioned nonprofit in the beginning, and I didn't know how that worked, quite honestly, because we have no money. So that's what nonprofits brag about.
Yeah.
So just curious as to how that works as far as having you come in and because I can see me going to the video that he's done and playing it with my group, and that'll be nice. That'll be a start.
Absolutely.
But moving forward, because we do have some small funds for marketing, but we're not marketers.
So we run into that a lot. We do provide a special nonprofit rate. We take your budget and tell you what we can do and then provide you the materials so that you can continue it. Personally, at Trampoline, we set aside every year how much we want to give and which nonprofits we want to participate with. To do that, we have a lot that are really near and dear to our heart and our community. We're also a part of 1% for the planet, so we choose some of our not-for-profits based on those that are part of 1% for the planet. And we're also currently applying for our B Corp certification, which is a whole nother thing. But so for instance, the Dempsey Center, they're a nonprofit. We do a lot of work with them. Would we have to bill a lot more than we are for a regular, for that much work? Yes. But just ask. There are a lot of agencies that will give you a not-for-profit rate. And if they don't, then share your very small budget and say, we need you to do everything you can for us in this budget. Tell me what that is. Yeah. And then just being open to learning a little bit, taking, because, when we're done, usually with a not-for-profit, generally that's templates for social, and maybe it's a suggested calendar of how many times to post, and it might be handouts to give to so for Dempsey Center, when they have people come in for a certain class, it's a menu. But providing a template, instead of having an agency design everything, get a template and then you have the template and you can put things in. It looks branded, it looks cohesive. You know, so there are definitely some tricks, and I think there are a lot of agencies who will do that. So ask around. Yeah. Is that it?
Chad, did you have a question?
It's not too often I do this, but maybe it's in session 2. Maybe I'm getting ahead of myself. But the use of hashtags, do you still find they're pretty relevant? I've noticed I've recently started doing some reels, and I've noticed that I think the hashtags I'm using are driving the numbers that I'm seeing in my results. Do you find that as well?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's, you know, when that hashtag aggregates that information, that's just another searchable way for people to get, you know, that information and to that hashtag. I think the one thing we caution is make sure before you come up with a hashtag, there's not a hashtag that's aggregating weird content and, you know, something that you don't want to be affiliated with, whether that's, you know, particular Hollywood star or politician or, you know, something else, because we have run into that. It's like, nope, we're not going to do that hashtag, not at all.
We had an arts group in our hometown of Glens Falls, and they wanted to use GF Arts, but it looks like G-Farts. It's, you don't think about, but I mean, you really have to like look at it. So just be cautious, but yes, it will definitely drive.
It does aggregate that content. Yeah, definitely. I think certain platforms are better at it than others. You won't see hashtags as much on like Facebook as you would on like Instagram. Even LinkedIn uses hashtags pretty well. So, yeah, good question.
Along the same line, I've seen a lot of posts with like 20 of them. Is it better to just have 2 or 3 good ones, or is less better in that case, or is this
I've seen
more
both.
is
That's
better?
a good question. I've seen some people write that put as many as you can in there, and others say just keep it simple. Again, we're of the minds to keep things simple. Less is more. When you see that there's less to read, I think there's more focus on the actual post. And then the key hashtags, between tagging and those hashtags, I think that you're going to reach, you know, who you want to reach. Again, the hashtags I think need to be probably thought out a little bit more strategically, but
Unless in your strategy, say for instance, you're looking to hit, you know, 10 municipalities in Maine. You're gonna wanna hashtag something from each of those to gather that attention. So I'm thinking, like, I follow Down East, and on their social channels, they will tag a bunch of different restaurants when they're doing an article in a certain town. So they might have 25 hashtags. If in your strategy you've identified that the best way for you to build business is through Instagram, go for it.
Yeah.
Just make sure you do the research, because that's how you're going to aggregate more.
yeah. And if you want to see visually less hashtags, you feel like you've got a good, you know, selection, the tagging of those businesses or those municipalities can stay kind of hidden. As long as you're tagging the photo, you've tagged that municipality. So somehow, whether it's hashtags or tags, you're reaching who you want to reach. Yeah.
All right. There's a QR code on our handout that goes right to our homepage on our website. If you want to sign up for our newsletter, lots of tips and tricks come out of that. Also, we'll have our presentation on our site, and probably a link to this handout as well. Thank you for having us and for participating.
Yeah, thanks for good
Yeah.
singers.
Well, on behalf of the Mid-Maine Chamber, thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you today.
Yeah, I just did that over here. Would have been bad. All right, I'm
We're
gonna
gonna
sit
do
down.
door prizes now, and do you want us to give away all 10 T-shirts? Yeah. Okay, so we have 10 T-shirts. They come in small, medium, and large. So when I pull your name, you're gonna have to identify which size you want till there are no choices left. So the first T-shirt is going to Jeff Jolliker of Surrett Real Estate. Jeff, would you like small, medium, or large? The next T-shirt is going to Wilbur Furlan from Sheridan Construction. Large? Small. Okay. Wants to look very buff in it. Our third t-shirt is going to Jamie Plord from Coldwell Banker Plord Real Estate. Okay, so we're out of larges. Next one's going to TJ Baldick from Advance One Cleaning. Next one is going to Eye Care of Maine, Tina Borg. And TJ, okay. How many we got left? I lost count. The hanging one was a medium too. Okay, next, Don Plord, Coldwell Banker Plord Real Estate. And then we have Sean Mishu from Silver Street Tavern. Now, he actually is doing property management for Charlie. That is a legit card. He didn't just make it up. It's a real live thing he's doing. Tough crowd, Sean. Okay. Jess Billington from Health Reach. And Sabrina Jandro from the Central Maine Growth Council. She's right behind you. Brina. Yeah, you got one more? I need to pick a small person. Everybody knows somebody small, right? Paula Raymond from MM Race from Adult Ed, right here in the black. Okay. Next, we have a $10 gift card and coffee mug donated by Aroma Joe's. And that's going to Jim Chapman from Kennebec Valley Community College. I also want to remind you there are surveys on the table, so if you could take your time to fill those out. We do consolidate those and provide the feedback to the presenters. Next, we have a $10 Sella Tea gift card donated by Sella Tea Cafe. And that's going to Adrian Sincere from Northeast Lab Analytical. Our next prize is a Lily of the Valley bath bomb and hand and body soap donated by Valley Spring Essentials. This is one of my favorite ones. It's the pink and green one. Yeah. It's going to Mike Blanchette. He is with Masthead, Maine. The Waterville Elks Banquet Center has donated a $25 chamber gift certificate, and that's going to Ron Robbins. Yep. It's how you get your steps in. $50 gift card from Front and Main, donated by Connected Credit Union, who was our spotlighter today. And that's going to Karen Warren from Mid-Maine Regional Adult and Community Education. She's up here next to Paula in the flowers. We have a $65 value Express Lube oil change donated by Central Maine Motors Auto Group, and that is going to Kim Hawks of Own Real Estate, and she left, so she doesn't get it because that's the rule. We've had controversy that way, and that's going to Nick Bollinger from Sheridan Corporation. We have a $100 valued 15-minute photo session, including 5 edited digital images and online print release, donated by No Negatives Photography. And that is going to Kathy Ames from Cross Insurance. And last but not least, we have a raft certificate for one person on the Kennebec River with Magic Falls Rafting Company any day during the 2023 season. It includes a hearty open grill barbecue. It's valued between $85 and $119 depending on the day you use it, and this is donated by Magic Falls, and it's going to Tina Clifford from Surratt, right behind you. So once again, please fill out your surveys on your table. You can either leave them there or drop them on the registration table on your way out. Thank you very much. We hope to see you at the Business to Business Showcase next week. Have a great day.